Rain lashed against the glass walls of Helix Corp Tower, streaking down the sleek surface like the tears of the city itself. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Nurses rushed through the hallways, their white coats fluttering like wings of panic. Machines beeped erratically, and the cold scent of antiseptic filled the executive medical suite. At the heart of it all, on a bed surrounded by chaos and despair, lay Evelyn Shaw, 38, CEO of one of the most powerful tech empires in the country. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, her breathing shallow, and her veins bruised from countless failed transfusions. Her body's rejecting everything. Dr. Lee muttered, glancing at the monitors. We've tried 12 donors, and not one is compatible. This is a blood anomaly I've never seen before. Beside him stood Marcus Hale, Evelyn's personal security chief and lifelong friend. His jaw was tight, his voice raw with frustration. You're saying the richest hospital in the city can't save her? There has to be someone out there. Dr. Lee exhaled, shoulders sagging. She needs a genetic match, Marcus. Something rare. Almost impossible. Marcus clenched his fists. Then we find the impossible. As the rain continued to pour outside, the news of Evelyn Shaw's critical condition spread like wildfire. Stock prices plummeted. Reporters camped outside the hospital. The world watched as the empire of one of the most brilliant businesswomen teetered on the edge of collapse. But inside that sterile room, all the wealth and power in the world couldn't buy what she needed most. A single drop of life that matched her own. Evelyn's eyelids fluttered open weakly. Marcus. She whispered. Her voice was brittle, like the crack of ice. Don't let them see me like this. Marcus knelt beside her, gripping her hand. You're going to make it, Evie. You always do. A faint smile touched her lips. The kind of smile that once disarmed boardrooms and silenced critics. Not this time, she breathed. This feels different. Her monitors blipped erratically again. Panic erupted as nurses rushed in, their shouts echoing down the corridor. Marcus was pulled back as they tried to stabilize her. Outside, the storm intensified. And miles away, under that same stormy sky, in a rundown neighborhood on the city's edge, Jack Turner tucked his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, into bed. Their apartment was small, the wallpaper peeling, the heater unreliable. Jack's hands, rough and scarred from his days in the army, gently brushed Lily's hair from her face. Sleep, kiddo. Daddy's got the night shift again, but I'll be back before you wake up. Lily frowned. I hate when you work so much. He smiled tiredly. Gotta keep the lights on somehow. And hey, he lifted her chin, his blue eyes soft. When things get tough, what do we say? She sighed, half smiling. We don't quit, ever. That's my girl. After she drifted off, Jack sat by the window, staring at the storm. Life had been one long battle since he left the service. Medical bills, low-paying security jobs, and raising a daughter alone after his wife passing. Still he fought, he always fought. When his phone buzzed, he almost ignored it. Another spam call, he thought. But the screen flashed Helix Corp Emergency Volunteer Program. He frowned. What the hell is this? A robotic voice on the line said, Attention, urgent call for rare blood donors. Immediate compensation and priority access to medical services. Helix Corp needs help. Jack hesitated, then shrugged. He'd donated blood before. It was a small way to do good. Maybe the payout could cover Lily's overdue school fees. By midnight, he was at Helix Corp Medical. The sterile brightness made his eyes ache, and the nurse at the desk barely looked up. Name? Jack Turner. She scanned a barcode, inserted a vial, and said, We're testing hundreds tonight. Don't expect much. He nodded, watching as the vial filled with dark red. But when the machine beeped, a sharp, unexpected tone, the nurse froze. What's wrong? Jack asked. Her eyes darted to the monitor, then to him. You're a perfect genetic match. Jack frowned. A match? For who? Evelyn Shaw. The name hit him like a gust of wind. Everyone in the city knew her. The iron-hearted CEO who built an empire from nothing. Within minutes, Jack was surrounded by doctors. Dr. Lee himself rushed in, his expression a mix of disbelief and relief. Mr. Turner, you may have just saved a life. She's in critical condition. We need your blood immediately. Jack hesitated only once. When he thought of Lily, sleeping at home. Will it hurt? Dr. Lee shook his head. Just a few hours of your time. Then do it, Jack said. If it'll save her. Moments later, he lay on the donor bed, his arm hooked to the transfusion machine. On the other side of a glass partition, Evelyn's motionless body awaited the crimson flow that could decide her fate. As the machine whirred and his blood began to flow, Jack closed his eyes, unaware that his life, and hers, were about to intertwine in ways neither could imagine. And for the first time in hours, Evelyn's heart monitor began to steady. The chaotic beeps turned rhythmic, almost calm. Outside, the storm began to fade. But in that quiet, something new was beginning, something neither science nor fate could explain. The morning after the storm. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows of Helix Corp's private suite. The first light Evelyn Shaw had seen in days. The rhythmic hum of the machines beside her now sounded like a song of life rather than the countdown of death. Her fingers twitched slightly, color returning to her once pale skin. Dr. Lee entered quietly, clipboard in hand. He couldn't hide the disbelief in his eyes. Vitals stable. No signs of rejection. Marcus, who hadn't left the waiting area all night, looked up sharply. "You mean? She's responding?" The doctor interrupted, a smile breaking through his exhaustion. "Her body accepted the transfusion. Whatever this man's blood carries, it's unique." Marcus let out a shaky breath, dragging his hands over his face. "Who is he?" Dr. Lee glanced at his notes. "Name's Jack Turner. 39. Former military. O negative. But it's not just the type. There's something rare in his cell structure, something we've never seen before." Marcus frowned. "You think this guy could be the key?" "I think," Dr. Lee said softly, "he's the only reason Evelyn's still breathing." Down in a quieter wing of the hospital, Jack sat up on a cot, rubbing his arm where the IV had been. The nurse had told him he could leave, but he lingered, unsure why. Maybe it was the thought that somewhere above him, someone important was alive because of him. He didn't know her. Didn't care about corporate power or billion-dollar empires. He just wanted to do the right thing. As he stood, his phone buzzed. A missed call from his daughter's school. He sighed and quickly dialed back. "Mr. Turner." Came the voice of Mrs. Albright, Lily's teacher. "We just wanted to check in. Lily mentioned you were at a hospital last night." Jack chuckled softly. "I'm fine. Just helped with a donation thing. She worries about you." The teacher said kindly. "You're raising a remarkable little girl." "Thanks," he said, voice tightening a little. "She keeps me going." When he hung up, he turned to see a woman standing in the doorway. Impeccably dressed, dark suit, sharp eyes. Her presence radiated authority. "You're Jack Turner," she said. He straightened instinctively. "Yeah. And you are?" "Maria Collins, Helix Corp's legal director," she replied, stepping closer. "On behalf of the company and Miss Shaw, we owe you a debt we can't repay." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "You don't owe me anything. Just glad she's okay." Maria smiled slightly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Still, the company insists on a reward. A check has been prepared." He cut her off. "Keep it. I didn't do it for money." That surprised her. Few people ever turned down Helix Corp. "Then at least let Miss Shaw thank you in person. When she's strong enough." Jack hesitated, then nodded once. "Sure. If she wants to." By evening, Evelyn was awake, groggy but alive. The world outside didn't know yet, but Helix Corp's CEO was no longer dying. She was different. As Dr. Lee ran more tests, he couldn't shake what he saw in the microscope. Evelyn's cells had begun replicating faster, not in a harmful way, but as if her body was renewing itself. Stronger. Healthier. When Marcus entered, she turned her head weakly toward him. "Still here. Not going anywhere," he said. "You gave us all a hell of a scare." "I remember," she murmured. "The pain. The noise." Then it stopped. "You have someone to thank for that," Marcus said quietly. "A man named Jack Turner. He donated his blood. It matched perfectly." Evelyn's brows furrowed. "Jack Turner." She tested the name, rolling it on her tongue like something familiar yet strange. "Find him." "He's downstairs," Marcus said. "Maria already spoke to him. Bring him to me," Evelyn said, her voice soft but firm. Marcus hesitated. "You should rest, Marcus," she interrupted, her eyes glinting faintly with that old authority. "Please." Minutes later, the door opened, and Jack stepped inside. The room was quiet. Too clean. Too polished. And he felt completely out of place. Evelyn turned her head slowly, her gaze meeting his. Even in weakness, she carried an aura of control. Like a queen momentarily dethroned but never broken. "You're the man who saved my life," she said. Jack scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. "Guisso. How are you feeling?" "Alive," she whispered. "Which is something I wasn't expecting." He smiled faintly. "Glad to hear it." She studied him. The worn jacket, the The faded army patch. The tired but kind eyes. You didn't have to help me. I didn't think about it, he said simply. Just did what was needed. Something flickered across her face. Admiration. Maybe even confusion. You know, I've spent years surrounded by people who only help when there's something in it for them. Not my kind of crowd, Jack said. That made her laugh softly, though it turned into a cough. Maybe it should be. A moment of silence hung between them, strangely comfortable. Then a nurse entered to adjust her IV, breaking the quiet. Evelyn looked at him again. Thank you, Mr. Turner. You didn't just give me blood. You gave me a second chance. Jack nodded. Just make it count. He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. Jack. He looked back. Come back tomorrow, she said. I'd like to know more about the man who did what all the world's doctors couldn't. Jack hesitated, then gave a small nod. Sure. Tomorrow. As the door closed behind him, Evelyn lay back, feeling the faint thrum of energy in her veins. Something about that man's blood, his presence, lingered inside her like a fire quietly waking. And far below, as Jack stepped out into the night air, he couldn't shake the strange feeling that he hadn't just saved a life. He'd changed his own. Days passed, and the story of Evelyn Shaw's miraculous recovery spread through Helix Corp like wildfire. Official statements were carefully crafted. Owen expected compatibility. Advanced treatment success. CEO making steady progress. But behind closed doors, the whispers were different. Something about her had changed. She moved through her recovery faster than anyone thought possible. Wounds that had once resisted healing were vanishing overnight. Her energy returned not just to normal, but to something greater. Even her doctors began exchanging uncertain looks, wondering if the miracle was something they could explain, or something they should fear. Yet, for Evelyn, the strangest change wasn't in her body, it was in her heart. Every evening, Jack Turner came by the hospital. Not out of obligation, not because anyone asked him to, but because she wanted him there. And slowly, what began as awkward small talk started to feel like something deeper. Still think I'm just another corporate robot, she teased one night, her eyes sparkling despite the IV line running into her arm. Jack chuckled. You. Maybe a little too polished for my world. But no, not anymore. She tilted her head. And what's your world like, Jack? He leaned back in the chair by her bed. Simple. Messy. Real. I get up early, make breakfast for my kid. Work 12 hours guarding some warehouse, come home, and pray the heater hasn't died again. Evelyn smiled faintly. You sound proud of that life. I am, he said. It's honest. Everything I've got I earned. Maybe not much, but it's mine. Her gaze softened. You sound like my father. Jack raised an eyebrow. Was he military too? She shook her head. He built things with his hands. Houses, roads, schools. Then I came along and built this. She gestured vaguely toward the skyline visible from her window. The glass towers with her company's name shining like a brand. Sometimes I wonder if I built walls instead of bridges. Jack was quiet for a moment. Maybe this. He gestured to the hospital room. Is the universe's way of making you slow down. Rebuild different this time. That made her smile. Not the tight, practiced one she used in boardrooms, but something softer, real. When Marcus came by later, he noticed it instantly. You're smiling again, he said cautiously. That's new. Evelyn gave him a look. Don't start. I'm just saying. He smirked. The guy's good for you. She shot back dryly. He's a blood donor, Marcus, not a therapist. But the faint color in her cheeks betrayed her. One afternoon, as the doctors prepared to discharge her, Dr. Lee entered with a concerned look. Evelyn, we've been monitoring your vitals. Everything's good. Too good. She frowned. Too good. Your blood regeneration rate has tripled. Your immune system is behaving in ways I've never seen in a human body. It's fascinating. But it's also unpredictable. So what are you saying? She asked. I'm saying we don't know what long-term effects this could have. Dr. Lee said carefully. Whatever's in Jack Turner's blood. It's not just compatible. It's transformative. Her eyes narrowed. Transformative how? He hesitated. If I didn't know better, I'd say your body's evolving. The words hung heavy in the air. Evelyn turned to the window, her reflection pale but glowing faintly in the light. Evolving, she repeated softly. Later that evening, she called Jack to meet her in the hospital garden. A quiet space of soft lights and marble paths, a place few knew existed. He arrived in his worn jacket, hands in his pockets. "You wanted to see me." She nodded, walking slowly toward a stone bench. The night breeze caught her hair, and for the first time, she wasn't wearing her business armor. No suit, no mask. Just Evelyn. "I wanted to thank you again," she began. "But also tell you something strange." Jack sat beside her, patient. "Go on. They say your blood changed me. That I'm healing too fast. Too perfectly." He frowned. "Is that bad?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I feel stronger than I ever have. But it's different. Like there's something inside me that wasn't there before." Jack looked at her, his expression unreadable. "When I was in the army," he said slowly, "they used to tell us. Sometimes the body remembers trauma. Sometimes it rewires itself to survive. Maybe that's all this is. You're surviving." She met his eyes, the city lights reflecting between them. "Maybe. Or maybe it's more than that." They sat in silence for a moment, until Evelyn asked quietly, "You have a daughter, right?" "Lily," he said, a soft smile crossing his face. 8 years old. Smart as hell, tougher than me. "Do you think she'd like me?" Evelyn asked hesitantly. Jack blinked, surprised by the vulnerability in her tone. "She'd probably think you're a superhero. The CEO who beat death." Evelyn laughed softly. "I like her already." The next day, Evelyn was discharged. The press gathered outside, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions about her miraculous recovery. But Evelyn barely heard them. Her eyes searched the crowd, and found Jack standing quietly near the exit, Lily's small hand in his. The little girl beamed up at Evelyn with open admiration. "You must be the lady my dad saved," Lily said brightly, her voice cutting through the noise. Evelyn crouched down to her level, smiling. "And you must be the reason he's such a hero." Lily giggled. "He says you're really brave." Evelyn's smile faltered for a moment. "He gives me too much credit." Then she reached out and took Lily's hand gently. "But maybe you're both what I needed." As photographers snapped their photos, no one knew they were capturing the beginning of something no headline could predict. Not just the recovery of a CEO, but the quiet collision of two worlds that were never meant to meet. Later, as Jack walked them to the car, Evelyn glanced back at the tower she once ruled over with an iron will. Now, it felt smaller. "Funny," she said softly. "I used to think saving the company was all that mattered." Jack looked at her. "And now?" She smiled faintly. "Now I think the company didn't save me." "You did." And though neither of them said it out loud, they both felt the same truth stirring quietly between them. Something deeper than gratitude, something neither could explain, growing stronger with every heartbeat they shared. Weeks slipped by, and the city's chaos soon found new headlines to chase. The miracle recovery of Evelyn Shaw faded into background noise. But for those who truly watched, those inside Helix Corp, something fundamental had shifted. The CEO who once barked orders and terrified subordinates now walked the halls with a strange calm. She listened more, spoke less, and for the first time in years, she smiled without it being a calculated gesture. Some credited the near-death experience. Others whispered about the mystery donor. And every few evenings, when the city lights dimmed and the executives went home, Evelyn would find herself sitting in a quiet diner on the outskirts of town, across from the man whose blood still flowed in her veins. Jack Turner. Tonight was one of those nights. The diner was small, the kind of place where the air smelled of coffee and nostalgia. Lily sat in a booth nearby, drawing superheroes in her sketchbook while her father and Evelyn talked. Jack stirred his coffee slowly. "You know," he said, "if someone told me a few months ago I'd be having dinner with you, I'd have laughed." Evelyn smirked. "And why's that?" "Because you're, well, you," he said. "Helix Corp, suits, fortune lists, and me, I can barely pay rent." She chuckled, resting her chin on her hand. "Money doesn't impress me anymore." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Really? That's rich. Coming from the woman who practically owns half the skyline." Her smile faltered slightly. "I built that skyline because I thought it would fill something inside me. But the higher I climbed, the emptier it got." He studied her quietly, his voice softening. "You sound like someone trying to find herself again." She met his gaze, and for a moment, she didn't look like a CEO. She looked like someone who'd been fighting her own war for years. "Maybe I am," she said. "And maybe you're helping me do that." Lily glanced up from her sketchpad. "Daddy, she talks like you do after a long shift," she said innocently. Jack laughed. That's because she's been through her own kind of battle, kiddo. Evelyn smiled warmly. He's right. After dinner, Jack offered to drive her back. The city rolled past them. Glass towers gleaming like watchful eyes, the hum of traffic soft in the background. Evelyn looked out the window. I missed this. Just being part of the world, not above it. Jack glanced at her. You're still part of it. You just forgot what it felt like. She turned to him, her expression thoughtful. You talk like someone who's lost a lot. He gave a quiet laugh. Yeah, my wife, for starters. Cancer, 3 years ago. We tried everything. I'd have given anything to save her. Evelyn's chest tightened. I'm sorry, Jack. He shrugged gently. Don't be. It made me realize how fragile life is. That every day matters. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was shared understanding. Then she spoke softly. Maybe that's why your blood saved me. Jack frowned. What do you mean? I think it wasn't just compatibility, she said, her voice almost a whisper. Maybe it carried something else. Something human. Something good. He shook his head, smiling. You're giving me too much credit. Maybe not enough, she replied. In the following weeks, Evelyn invited Jack to Helix Corp. Not for meetings, but for something she called advice. He'd sit in her office while she talked through decisions, and though he had no business degree, his answers often disarmed her board of directors later. Sometimes, he told her once, you need to stop running your company like a machine. Run it like a platoon. Trust your people. She'd laughed. You're dangerously good at this. And soon, it became a routine. Jack's quiet wisdom grounding her, and Evelyn's confidence drawing him out of the isolation he'd wrapped himself in for years. But beneath the calm surface, something else was changing. Something none of them could ignore. Dr. Lee began running new tests after Evelyn fainted unexpectedly during a board meeting. When she woke in the infirmary, he looked pale. Evelyn, I need to tell you something, he said, his tone urgent. What is it? He hesitated, then held up a report. Your blood isn't the same anymore. It's not fully human. Though she bleat, her pulse quickening. What are you saying? The genetic markers are shifting, he said. Jack's DNA, it's integrating, rewriting parts of yours. You're no longer just you. The words made her chest tighten. Does that mean I'm dying? No. You're changing. Rapidly. You're stronger than ever. But your body's becoming something unique. A hybrid. Evelyn sat in silence, her mind reeling. Does he know? Dr. Lee shook his head. I haven't told him. I wasn't sure if I should. She closed her eyes. Not yet. That evening, Jack found her sitting alone in the rooftop garden of Helix Corp, the skyline glowing behind her like a crown. You okay? He asked softly, stepping closer. She forced a small smile. Just thinking. About what? About how strange it is to owe my life to someone I barely knew. He came beside her. You don't owe me anything, Evelyn. Her eyes met his. Fierce. Vulnerable, searching. Maybe I do. Because it wasn't just my life you saved. You gave me something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Jack didn't speak. But the look in his eyes said everything she needed to hear. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the wind tugging at her hair, the city below them humming like a heartbeat. Evelyn took a deep breath. Jacka, if something ever happens to me, promise me you'll look after Lily. And keep her away from all this, from me, from Helix Corp. His brow furrowed. Why would you say that? Just promise me. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, I promise. Evelyn turned away before he could see the flicker of fear in her eyes. Because deep down, she already felt it. Something inside her was growing stronger, and stranger. Something that didn't quite belong to either of them anymore. The moon hung low over the city that night, pale and restless. Evelyn Shaw stood by her window, watching the skyline shimmer. Every light in those glass towers once hers to command. But now, they felt foreign, distant. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest. Her heartbeat was different, faster, heavier, almost electric. It wasn't fear she felt. It was power. And it frightened her. Every few hours, she felt waves of strength surge through her veins. Bursts of clarity, senses sharp enough to hear conversations down the hall, to smell rain before it fell. But alongside that power came pain. Burning pulses that made her gasp and clutch the walls until it passed. Dr. Lee's words haunted her. Your body's not fully human anymore. At first, she'd laughed it off. But now, standing alone in the quiet of her penthouse, she could no longer deny it. Whatever was in Jack Turner's blood was alive. And it was changing her. Meanwhile, across the city, Jack sat by Lily's bedside as she slept. Her drawing of Super CEO Lady, complete with a red cape and glowing hands, hung on the fridge behind him. He smiled faintly at the sketch, but worry clouded his face. Evelyn hadn't answered his last few messages. Something felt wrong. He remembered the way she looked on the rooftop. That flicker of fear in her eyes she tried to hide. He couldn't shake the feeling that she was in trouble. At dawn, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered instantly. Jack Turner. The voice was low, professional. Maria Collins. Mr. Turner, I need you to come to Helix Corp immediately. Miss Shaw requested you personally. Jack's gut tightened. Is she all right? She will be, Maria said carefully. But she needs you. When Jack arrived, the guards didn't stop him this time. He rode the elevator to the top floor. The executive suite that still smelled faintly of antiseptic and steel. He found Evelyn sitting on the couch. Pale but composed, her hands folded neatly in her lap. You came, she said softly. You said you needed me, he replied. What's going on, Evelyn? You look different, she finished, a tired smile flickering across her lips. That's one way to put it. She stood and moved toward him. For a brief moment, the light caught her face, and Jack froze. Her eyes weren't the same. They shimmered faintly, almost luminescent, like sunlight through water. What happened to you? He whispered. She took a slow breath. Your blood happened to me. Jack stared, speechless. Lee entered quietly, holding a tablet. We've been running tests. It's astonishing. Her body has adapted your DNA, not just accepted it but rewritten itself with it. She's healing faster, thinking clearer, aging slower. In theory, she might never get sick again. Jack frowned. That sounds like a miracle. Dr. Lee hesitated. It could also be a curse. Her immune system is overactive. If it doesn't stabilize, it could start seeing her own cells as enemies. Evelyn's voice cut in, calm and resolute. I can handle it. Jack turned to her. Handle it? Evelyn, you're talking about your body attacking itself. She met his gaze steadily. You don't understand. This isn't killing me. It's waking me up. He took a cautious step closer. Waking you up to what? To something bigger than either of us. Her words hung in the air, heavy with conviction. And something else. Faith. Over the next few days, Evelyn insisted on continuing her work, much to the frustration of her doctors. But Marcus noticed the difference immediately. Her intuition had become uncanny. She'd predict market swings before they happened, sense people's moods without words, and solve problems her analysts had spent weeks on. Evie. Marcus said one night in her office. I don't know what's happening to you, but it's not normal. Neither is surviving 12 failed transfusions. She replied evenly. You're playing with fire. Then maybe fire is what I needed. She said softly. Jack, meanwhile, couldn't stay away. He found himself drawn to her. Not out of curiosity. But out of something deeper, something he couldn't explain. When he visited one evening, she greeted him with a faint smile. You shouldn't keep coming here. It's dangerous. For who? He asked quietly. For both of us. He stepped closer. You saved my faith in the world, Evelyn. If you think I'm walking away now, you're wrong. She looked up at him. And in that gaze, the air between them seemed to thicken. Her hand brushed his, tentative but charged. And suddenly the faint pulse of her veins flared. A subtle glow beneath her skin. Jack pulled back instinctively. What was that? He whispered. I don't know, she breathed. But it only happens when you're near. Dr. Lee later confirmed what Evelyn already suspected. Her blood pressure, heart rate, and neural activity all spiked dramatically whenever Jack was within 10 feet of her. It was as if his presence triggered something inside her, a resonance. A connection neither of them could break. One night, Evelyn collapsed in the boardroom mid-meeting. Alarms blared. Marcus carried her to the medical wing, shouting for help. When Jack arrived minutes later, she was unconscious, her pulse erratic. Dr. Lee was injecting something into her IV line, his hands trembling. She's rejecting her own blood now, he shouted. Her body's fighting itself. It's chaos! Jack rushed to her side. There has to be something you can do. Dr. Lee's eyes were wild. The only thing that ever stabilized her system was you. Your blood. Your proximity. Without hesitation, Jack grabbed her hand. Then I'm not leaving her. The monitors flickered. Her heart rate dropping. Then slowly, rhythmically, began to stabilize again. Dr. Lee froze. It's working. Jack held her hand tighter, tears stinging his eyes. Come on, Evelyn. Stay with me. And in that instant, her eyelids fluttered open. Eyes glowing faintly. Her voice weak but clear. You came back, she whispered. Always, he said, her fingers tightened around his. Then maybe, we're not two people anymore. And though he didn't understand what she meant, Jack felt it. The undeniable truth pulsing between them. Her heartbeat had synchronized with his. 2 rhythms, now 1. Evelyn's recovery this time was unlike before. Faster, more complete, almost impossible. Within hours of her collapse, she was not only stable but standing again. Her strength returning in waves. Yet the doctors and machines could barely keep up with her body's transformation. Her blood readings fluctuated beyond known human parameters. Her metabolism had accelerated, her reflexes sharpened, and her eyes shimmered faintly even under ordinary light. But what terrified her most wasn't what she was becoming. It was what she felt. Every time Jack was near, her pulse slowed to perfect rhythm. Every time he left, it faltered again. They weren't just connected. They were dependent. And that truth both bound her heart and broke it. One evening, she stood on her penthouse balcony, staring at the glowing city below. The world that once bowed before her now felt small, fragile even. The woman who once commanded empires had become something she couldn't explain. When Jack arrived, he found her barefoot, her silk dress fluttering in the wind, the faint shimmer of her veins catching the moonlight. You shouldn't be out here in the cold, he said, stepping closer. I don't feel it anymore, she murmured. Hit. Cold. My body doesn't respond the same way. He frowned. That can't be good. She turned to face him, her expression calm but distant. It's not good or bad. It's just different. Jack hesitated. Dr. Lee says your blood chemistry is still changing. Yes, she said softly. And if it continues, I won't be human for long. He stepped closer, shaking his head. Don't say that. You're still you. Her voice wavered, just slightly. Am I? Because lately, I can feel things I shouldn't. Hear people's heartbeats. Sense fear. Anger. Truth. She looked down, eyes shimmering with something between awe and despair. And when I'm near you everything stops. The noise, the chaos. You silence it. Jack took her hand gently. Then I'll stay. She looked up at him, pain flickering across her face. You can't. It's too dangerous. Whatever's happening in me, it's tied to you. If my body changes more, I don't know what that means for either of us. I don't care. He said firmly. I've already lost too much. I'm not losing you too. Her voice broke. You could die, Jack. He smiled faintly. So could you. Guess that makes us even. She laughed softly through her tears. The sound brittle and beautiful all at once. You're impossible. And you're worth it, he said quietly. Days turned into weeks. Evelyn's transformation stabilized. Barely. The doctors could no longer explain her condition, but she seemed at peace with it. Together, she and Jack began rebuilding Helix Corp from the inside out. Shifting its mission from profit to people, pouring resources into veterans programs, free medical research, and affordable healthcare. Redemption through healing. She called it. More like redemption through stubbornness. Jack teased once, helping her review plans late at night. But beneath the laughter, there was something unspoken. A ticking clock they both felt. Every test Dr. Lee ran told the same story. Evelyn's body was still evolving, her cells still rewriting themselves. And each day, her bond with Jack grew stronger, almost symbiotic. The doctor warned them gently. If one of you dies, I'm not sure the other will survive. They didn't speak of it again, but the truth lingered between them like a silent vow. Then one morning, Marcus burst into her office, his face ashen. Evelyn, there's been a breach. Someone leaked your medical files. Her stomach dropped. Ooh. We don't know. But it's out. The media's calling it the blood hybrid scandal. Investors are panicking. People think you experimented on yourself. She stood frozen for a moment, then looked to Jack, who had just entered behind Marcus. They're going to destroy everything we built, she whispered. Then let them try. Jack said. You didn't ask for this, you survived it. But before she could respond, Marcus' phone buzzed. And his face went pale. Security just reported someone's coming up. Armed. Jack moved instantly. Instincts kicking in. Get her behind me. Moments later, the doors burst open. 2 masked intruders. Rogue former employees, desperate for answers. Shouting accusations about genetic tampering and corporate lies. Stay back. One screamed, pointing a gun. "You turned yourself into some kind of monster." Evelyn raised a trembling hand. "Please, listen." The gun fired. Jack didn't think, he moved. The bullet hit him square in the chest. The sound echoed through the glass halls like thunder. "Jack!" Evelyn screamed, catching him as he fell. Blood spread across his shirt. Her blood, once his. She pressed her hand to the wound, trembling. No, stay with me." He coughed, forcing a smile. "Wes, I kept my promise, didn't let you go." Tears streaked her face. "You saved me once, Jack Turner. Let me save you now." As she leaned over him, and for the first time, the glow in her veins flared bright, radiant and wild, like liquid light. She pressed her palm to his chest, whispering, "If my blood made me live, maybe it can do the same for you." A flash, blinding white. The machine screamed. When the light faded, Jack gasped, air flooding back into his lungs. Evelyn, however, collapsed beside him, still, silent, her glow fading away. "No." Jack choked out, pulling her close. "Don't do this. Don't you dare." Her eyes fluttered open weakly. "Looks like I finally built a bridge," she whispered. He shook his head, tears falling freely. "Evelyn. Promise me," she said faintly. "You'll tell Lily I kept my promise too." Her hand slipped from his. And the heartbeat monitor went still. The world mourned the loss of Evelyn Shaw, visionary, reformer, savior. But what they didn't know was that somewhere, in a quiet corner of the city, Jack Turner was alive. Carrying something inside him that no science could name. Her blood. Her strength. Her heart. Months later, Lily ran into his arms after school beaming. "Daddy! Look what I drew!" He smiled down at the paper. A drawing of 3 people, a man, a little girl, and a woman with glowing hands watching over them from the sky. Jack swallowed hard, smiling through the ache. "It's perfect, kiddo." That night, as the rain returned, Jack stood by the window, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. He pressed a hand to his chest. Sometimes, when the world went quiet, he swore he could still feel another heartbeat inside him. Faint but steady, like a promise that never died. And every time the storm rolled over the skyline,